Thank you, thank you. Can you hear me? Are we muffled? The good thing is me and Raja were saying the lights are so bright, even if you guys go off to sleep, you won't know. So we'll continue talking, which is brilliant. And it's always great to come to a place like this, right? You're at home, your wife pretty much tells you you are dead meat, and then you come here and she gives you a 30-second write-up. You get a boost in your self-esteem, I think. So it's always nice, thank you. For a moment, I was wondering there, who is she talking about? Right, when she was saying all of that, but brilliant, right? Thank you so much. Exciting times, right? A lot of us geeks who used to be, and I was speaking to Jenny and Ramya outside, I said, a lot of us geeks, when we were doing this a few years ago, we would be in the basement. Once a month, we'd be brought out to sunlight and said, Abhi batao tumko kya bolna hai, right? And then we'd be sent back to the basement. And suddenly, data and AI became sexy. Right? And people started asking us to come to stage, which is why a lot of sessions overrun, because now that we're getting a chance, we just don't shut up about it, right? We're like, abhi pura bol ke jayenge aaye hain to. Right? So the only friendly advice I got from Samir, and for whoever knows Samir well, his friendly advice comes with, some underlying threat. He said, time pe khatam karna. I'm like, okay, theek hai, time pe khatam karenge. But exciting times, right? In the last 18 months, I think we've seen some seminal breakthroughs in the area of AI. I think arguably the last time I think so much innovation happened was in 2012. I don't know how many of us remember the whole ImageNet competition, where deep neural networks really came to the fore, where accuracy increased. I think it was also in 2012 when X Labs actually put together a neural network of 16,000 odd computer processors running 1 billion connections. And they were able to teach it to identify cat videos on YouTube, right? And so if you're wondering why internet is full of cat videos, blame XLab, right? A lot of stuff, CNN, etc., all 2012. So much so that I think between 2013 and 2017, patents for machine learning related patents went up by, I think, 35% CAGR. Right? It was third highest patents given in any field, right? And after that, I think there's been a lull. And suddenly, then Gen AI happened to all of us, right? And one of the people, and one of my personal heroes, Professor Jeffrey Hinton, many people call him the godfather of AI, I think. He was the person behind a lot of this stuff that happened, right? And what I find fascinating is he spent years and years studying the human brain and trying to get a machine to mimic it. And I'm not trying to draw a parallel, but Raja, I know you did a lot of research in neural sciences. I think it would be and the impact that they have on our lives, on our decisions, on our organization, right, behavior. I think it would be interesting to talk to you about this human-AI intersection.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Oh, any of the other mics working? Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. That is human intelligence at work. You can take whatever and then still get it done with no algorithm in place. So now, thank you for bringing that angle on neurosciences actually. In this big conference of AI, I would probably be the only one talking about and for human intelligence actually. So hear me out and then I'll be completely different from the rest actually. Now, I sit at the intersection of human intelligence and artificial intelligence, and somewhere right in the middle, and then my research focuses on that particular area. Now, why is this area important? What's the significance? Think about it like this. If I ask you a question, or the organizer of Beyond 24 asks, how many people in this room are attentive right now to what's being spoken? What's the answer? Nobody knows. Some of you are raising hands. Some in sleep also can successfully raise hands actually. So you don't know the answer. What's the only way you find out? You conduct a survey at the end of the day. Somebody fills up something. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Enter neurosciences, artificial intelligence, generative AI, all come together. You have a device that measures hour by hour, minute by minute, second by second, participant by participant, how many are looking at the speaker, how many are looking at the phone, how many are looking outside, how many are waiting for tea. You now know the engagement on a real-time basis. This is where neurosciences, human brain, works with artificial intelligence and Gen AI. Extrapolate this a little bit further. Why talk about the session? Go back to your company. Whichever company you're working in, how engaged are your employees? How engaged is your team? How engaged are you yourself? I mean, when the manager comes, you behave differently. All that is separate. Really, how much are you engaged? People do surveys at the end of the year. Great job. People probably are not even engaged. And then they wonder, everybody is engaged in my company. Why are so many people leaving? Neurosciences working with AI can give real-time data. The CEO of a company is giving a lecture from headquarters to a GCC or someone. Guys, here's my vision, here's my strategy, here's so on. By the time he has spoken 5 minutes, half the people are disengaged, whatever. In real time, neurotech, which is neurosciences with AI, come together to tell the CEO, wait, don't deliver the whole speech, change track, move. This is the direction, your employees need this. Neurosciences, artificial intelligence, generative AI working together. Remove neurosciences out of it, it's pure Gen AI, they don't produce these results. And I can go on and on and on, from vision, to strategy, to leadership, to team management, to employee engagement, to culture, to values. These are our company values. How many of them are being there on the floor? You don't know. You assume. With neurotech, if there is a value integrity and somebody is not following integrity, you don't know it after 3 years when you go to jail. You get to know close to real time. This is the power of neurosciences with AI and Gen AI. So this conference is on AI, Gen AI. I want all of us to go with one message, that when paired with human intelligence, underline paired, together is multiplicative geometric power, and it can produce really true sense of the word limitless. There's no limit. You name the area, healthcare, life sciences, driverless cars, events, conferences, human intelligence, all areas can be impacted tremendously positively. So thanks for bringing the neuroscience angle. I'm a true believer that with Gen AI and AI can truly usher in the topic of today, which is absolutely limitless AI.
I love it. I also love the passion and enthusiasm he brings to this, right? Very obviously. And I used to keep saying this. Every room I'd walk into because of the job that I do, people would talk about hardware and software. And I used to keep saying this, it won't run if you don't get the wetware right. 80% human body is whatever, not a biology student, but large percentage of us is water. So the wetware, I think, because all of it's still ab initio, right? The first principle is still a human being somewhere, right? We're talking about the endurance that the human body has and the power that the human brain has. Somebody you would not associate with high endurance because he's possibly the most sharply dressed person, and rightly so, Vishy. Coming from the area that he comes is part of a fashion house. So therefore, but for those who don't know, he's been doing stuff that really takes it out of the human body. He's gone to Everest Base Camp, Annapurna Base Camp, if I'm not wrong, Vishy, right? But one of the things that I wanted to talk about is, I remember a time when we used to go and advise boards and CEOs, say, don't fixate on a technology. Figure out your business strategy and then retrofit whatever is the right technology for you. And I used to do it myself, a few years back. But in some areas, the entire value chain of businesses are being disrupted by whether Gen AI, new AI, etc. And now we are actually saying, put the cart before the horse and figure out how you need to change your business model. And fashion is one of those areas where the entire value chain is almost being disrupted. We would love to hear about that.
Thank you, Vishwajit. And my dressing sense has nothing to do with my sense of fashion. It's office peer pressure. So.
Or mostly your wife, either of the two.
Yeah, of course. That goes without saying. So, even a couple of years back, before the Gen AI was there, we had the advent of D2C companies. The Mamaearths of the world and the fashion Bewakufs of the world existed before Gen AI. It's very fundamentally different from a sense of the business model. Data was the lead. It's a data-led company and not necessarily a product-led company. But with Gen AI coming in, this D2C concept extended much beyond the regular commodities. And it also transformed not just the way companies are organized internally as data first, but also in the way the creativity is kind of outsourced it back to the consumers. For example, we have fashion companies where consumers can design their designs using some computer-aided tools, Gen AI based, and somebody else takes care of the backend production. So in a way, a consumer is at the forefront of deciding what they want, as opposed to the company saying, this is what you want. So Gen AI brought that fundamental shift in the way companies are. And so it's not the same world where we try to optimize our business using things like machine learning, right? Machine learning always, at however effective it is, it's always is the supporting role. It tells the business how to do things better, efficient, and faster. But with Gen AI, it almost creates data. It synthesizes data. So you got to go back to the board and think, what's the best way I can run the business, right? So no wonder most of the Gen AI-based firms are actually headed by the young, probably less than 25 years old, because they're not burdened with the legacy way of thinking, saying, I start this way of doing things, I learn manufacturing first, and no, it's not the case anymore. So the whole business model is disrupted. And I think that's a fundamental difference between this whole Gen AI and ML.
And I love it. And when he says all of this Gen AI is being led by young people, I'm guessing he's counting us also in that. So
no. All this is an old bunch here.
but one of the important things there is a lot of things which were B2B have suddenly, to a certain extent, become D2C, direct to consumers. The choice lies at the end point. What this also means is the scale has just gone through the roof, right? And as our founder, Jeff Bezos, is very fond of saying, scale breaks everything, right? And Kartik, I wanted to come to you because you have experience of creating platforms servicing India scale businesses, right? And for those of you who don't know Kartik, he had to make a very tough choice between a brilliant career as a cricketer. He played under 19 for states, right? And
under 14.
Yeah, under 14, sorry. And then what he's doing. So all of you know whether he made the right choice or not, right? So we'll talk to you about that later. But yes, we would love to hear you talk about your experience building systems at India scale.
Well, that's the billion-dollar question, right? So I think for India, at an India scale, it's not just only technological advancement, it's also, and especially with LLMs, right? It also comes with the cultural biases, right? India is a country which has cultural biases, regional biases, and we have to start from ground zero, which is how are we collecting our data? So entire LLM is trained on the internet, and we all know internet is not right. Internet has it has more false information than right information. And that's where, all of our LLMs hallucinate, all of the LLMs. If you scold the LLM enough, it will say that, I am the president of India. So that's what it is. So for an India level, I think, and there are startups coming up where we are training LLMs from scratch for India, keeping in mind the linguistic barriers, the cultural biases, right? There are very sensitive issues in India. And and let's say I'm government of India and I want to implement an LLM-based solution. I would be very scared to do that because somebody asked a question on Ram Mandir. And I'm talking about sensitive topics, right? You need to train, you need to go at the layer where data resides. So that's I think the first fundamental point there. The second bit that I've been, fervently advocating is around transparency. So how transparent is your output? By transparent, I mean, I kind of coined a term called inference lineage. It's basically how is your model inferring that answer? Which sources does it cited? Where is the block of PDF that it accessed to give you a certain information? So that is going to be pivotal given organizations such as ours and the one in the room, they are big fortune logos, right? A bank cannot say that, my policy gives you 18% return when it only gives you 7% return, right? So that's the transparency bit of it. Second is trust. Where is my data going? If you do anything on ChatGPT, it's actually hitting a server in the US. So technically, you are sending your data to a US server and it's coming back. By the way, Samsung Korea banned ChatGPT because somebody uploaded the design documents for the chips. So it's currently banned in Samsung. So that is one problem, right? So second is trust. How do you build that trust so that at India scale we are able to do it? And third is reliability. I should be able to ask the same question 100 times in 100 different manners to the same LLM and it should give me the right answer. Like the same answer, not the right answer, the same answer. It should not hallucinate. And I think one major thing that's lacking that could be improved at India scale right now is the infrastructure. In terms of, and I'm being a little technical here, in terms of how data centers are built and distributed across the globe. So right now we have few data centers which in Mumbai or Bangalore for Azure or AWS, which we use, right? India is still doing okay, but if you go to other parts of the world and maybe less privileged countries, they don't have data centers and their data privacy laws are very strict. So technically they cannot use an LLM because your data is going to go out of your country and it's not under their data residency laws. It's basically in the Middle East also. So I think that's also something that we as a community would have to, push guys like you to, build more data centers to make sure that our data is not going out, because I'm sure India is also drafting a policy around where is my data going, and all organizations especially are worried about where their data goes. So I think those are the factors that are needed to, build at scale for India.
And then Kartik, I promise you that we are all, not just AWS by the way, all the large players, we are doing our level best to ensure that there is enough infra in every country to unleash the power of what we are trying to do, right? And I like this idea of saying context is required and necessary. And for everybody in the room who doesn't understand Hindi, you'll have to turn to your next door neighbor to translate this a little bit. Just imagine this. Just imagine that I am an Indian middle class household, which I am, and think I have a 15-year-old son. I don't have a 15-year-old son. But if I did, think of it like this, right? Say on a Sunday morning, I turn to my son and say, Beta, red label liya. He will say, Papa, 500 gram ya 1 kilo, right? On a Friday evening at 7 o'clock, if I turn to my son and say, Beta, red label liya, he'll say, Papa, 750 ml 1 liter. If you look at it, right? Subject, object, nothing has changed. Tonality, nothing has changed. Only context, right? And because of the brilliant way that the human brain works, based on our experiences, our learning, our genetic memory, he is able to connect and say, Friday evening, Papa, chai to nahi piyenge. But there are so many, maybe my mother-in-law is in the house, and I don't drink in front of my mother-in-law. So even on a Friday evening, he would still say, Papa, 500 gram hai 1 kilo. Because he knows. And that's the context that we are trying to build when we build stuff for India.
He has a more evolved brain than you, I think.
Yeah. Right? But Ram, I want to come to you. You have been an enterprise architect, one of the most difficult jobs, I think, because you're expected to just know everything across the entire spectrum of every technology, right? And therefore, and by the way, he comes from a household of architects. His wife is also an architect, right? So therefore, you can't get out of this. But now we're talking about this adopting limitless AI. I would love to hear you have this very certain views of adoptive architecture, right? We'd love to hear that because it makes it real, I think.
Am I audible? Yeah. So thank you, Vishwajit, for such a rocking introduction. And it's nice to be here. See, really, right, from since morning, the kind of discussion is going on, and we are in the real age of AI plus, right? It's not plus AI. Now we are talking about AI plus. You will hardly find any organization, it's large, medium, small, who are not exploring generative AI. The reason is, generative AI is the frontline technology of this limitless AI or your AI plus age, along with other ecosystem technologies, right? It's data, AI, analytics, cloud, Web3, metaverse, blockchain, the list is going on. But there is a paradigm shift in generative AI. All the other technologies in last 22 years I am seeing, at least everybody was ready to wait till the vendor ecosystem gets, stabilized or technology gets matured. But generative AI is altering the paradigm. Nobody is ready to wait. So how the organization will go? So the questions that we are getting from our customers, our partners, that how should I do the entire adoption? Whether I'll go for large scale adoption or small scale projects, what should be my potential use case? How do I do the risk assessment analysis? What should be my operating model? What should be my cost model? What should be my change and governance model? So we also did a research. The answer is pretty simple, single answer. That is, each and every organization, irrespective of size, they have to follow a adoption architecture, which is a very well-established framework that will guide you to achieve incremental structured implementation. In addition, it will give you a strategy. And strategy will vary from your organization to other organization and across the business units. So if you talk about the strategy, so mainly three parts, what we are seeing. First thing is the high potential use case. So how I will make a high potential use case? So once you have a use case, first, you have to do a risk assessment analysis. So once it goes to the next steps, you have to do a ROI analysis. Post that, you need a sourcing strategy, vendor sourcing strategy, or technology sourcing strategy, service sourcing strategy. Then you need a operating model. You need an assessment, and again you have to do the iteration. This is all traditional. That is not new. But new in the stakeholder communication. So when you will do the generative AI, especially AI plus ecosystem, you have to bring all your stakeholders in the same page, starting from C-suite to managerial to tech and non-tech workers. Any decision taken by C-suite, this framework tells you have to take to lib level, take the feedback and go, so that your decision will be very uniform and there should not be any ambiguity in adoption. Another thing this framework always tells that you have to reimagine your technology foundation. Because until or unless you realign your technology foundation, you will not be able to get benefit of these new technology sets. So strategy is one part, but you have to strengthen your ecosystem technologies also. That is very important. Because till now, you have a foundation for 2-story building. Now you are trying to build a 3-story and multi-story building. For example, your data strategy. You have a kind of data strategy related to your data control, data collection, data governance, security, and data infrastructure. You have to relook into this data strategy. Otherwise, you will not be able to achieve this. Second is, we all know and agree that is the AI controls, right? Start from the AI ethics, AI responsibility. And if you are using any hosted model or you are building any model, your model explainability, transparency, interpretability, accuracy, and accountability, all should be taken care. And last but not the least, generative AI, it is generating the content. So if it is generating the content, you should have a steady framework to validate the content. Because if you don't validate the content, there will be a lot of issues over there. There are technologies. People are telling that one model is generating the content, why other model will not validate that. So that's the kind of paradigm is going on. You should think about the AI legality. You should think about the content having the plagiarism or not. So with this, coming to the picture, and AI operations, why not? Because people in this floor who are doing hands dirty in generative AI, at least the simplest form of using generative AI in your enterprise data is the RAG, retrieval augmented generation. There are two pipelines, ingestion pipeline and retrieval pipeline. You have content, you are doing chunking, storing, embedding, all these things, and you have semantic search and you are doing that. So two pipelines. Forget about that. If you are doing further research on that and if you are doing some custom model building or fine tuning, another two pipelines are coming. So you have total 4 pipelines. And if you strengthen all these pipelines, then you can iterate. And you can do that. Third, another fourth point I will tell, that is the cognitive infrastructure. You need a scalable, flexible, cost-effective, very important, cost-effective cognitive infrastructure. I will just stop it with strategy, it doesn't stop.
Like you said, right?
Last but not the least, you need a KPIs and matrices so that you can really gauge the real impact of AI plus or limitless AI in your organization.
So basically, Ram is saying, show me the money, right? And at the end of the day, and I absolutely agree, Ram, because I liked one of the things they said, and I was speaking to Shubho a while back, he was saying the same thing, right? This is the first time where there's a technology where everybody is very excited, we are not sure we are ready to adopt it, right? And I have my own theory on this and take it with a pinch of salt. And this is very India context, right? In the last 20 odd years that we have all been working in the field of technology, think of all the technologies that we touted as they are going to change our lives. So whether it was Hadoop, Metaverse, Bitcoin, RP, etc., etc. right? There were 120 million Indians who felt excluded, right? Because if you, for example, if you take me to a whiteboard and say, okay, explain blockchain, even I'll have trouble, right? And here I was, even our esteemed Prime Minister on the ramparts of Red Fort on 15th August when he was giving his speech, he also says machine learning and artificial intelligence and data multiple times, and 120 million Indians felt excluded. Now suddenly, here was a direct-to-consumer application that they could actually access on their phones. And suddenly all of them said, oh, generative AI, I understand this. But Vishay, I wanted to come to you and we'll do a quick short round. What does it take to make them enterprise grade? Right? Because it's not the same as having a direct-to-consumer application, right? You still have to make it enterprise grade.
Before I jump into that, see, the way Gen AI is different from any of the technology, you got to understand that. If you look at any senior CTO or a CDO, they would have dealt with 10 to 15 hype cycles of various technology, right from the SaaS to SAPs of the cloud and so on. Right? So if you start treating Gen AI as just another technology, that's a bad start. The thing with Gen AI is, by the time I evaluate, let's say, one stable diffusion model today and decide that it doesn't work for my use case and move on to the other, the previous model would have been developed, would have been trained with much better data and probably would have worked. And I'll be caught in this vicious circle. The second aspect is that this is not just a technology which a tech leader invests in. This is a technology that a tech and a business leader has to co-incubate it and take it to the next level. So that means certain level of business is going to get disrupted. That also means there's probably a more level of tolerance for failures that the business should have, right? Because everybody wants to be part of the journey of Gen AI, but nobody knows what it takes to be part of it. It's just not about hiring somebody who's developed a couple of models, or it's not about hiring somebody who can deal with technology, right? It's about being part of the risk journey. So I think, again, it's slightly digress, but when you want to scale this, so a lot of things that you need to worry about, like my colleague already mentioned, is there consistency? Is there reproducibility? Is there a trail that I can rely on if somebody questions the integrity of my output? In the fashion, when we are looking at some design use cases, you all know how about the New York Times versus the OpenAI, the Getty versus Stability.ai code cases, right? I mean, where the companies are claiming that their original copyrighted arts and text was used to generate something else. So all the Gen AI companies are finding it very tough to defend that they're not doing it, because they cannot also prove that they're doing it. So it's somewhere in the quagmire. I mean, this is going to be there for some time. So any enterprise is extremely cautious while using this, saying, what is the liability that I will have to face if I do this? So I think right now, I recently had a discussion with the head of legal of ABFRL. Everybody is in that phase where they're trying to safeguard themselves from any copyright infringement, especially in the fashion world where the copyrights exist only for very focused designs like the Chatterjees of the world, right? So before it goes to the enterprise, these are some of the things that you should keep in mind. How do you protect it? How do you protect your trademarks? How do you not encroach other trademarks? How do you worry about reproducibility? How do you have a proper trail? So on and so forth.
So I really like this, because there does seem to be a tendency in my consulting days. We used to say a ready, fire, aim strategy when it comes to Gen AI, right? And there's a tendency to do that. And just on that, right? And I'm going to come for quick, shorter snippets. Raja, how do you balance this FOMO and JOMO, right? There's this entire dichotomy between fear of missing out and joy of missing out, especially at board levels and senior stakeholders.
Okay, I mean, we have super competent AI, so I'll bring the human brain angle, which is what I am. All of you are sitting in the room right now. There's also a parallel session going on, I believe, which is yes. If you're sitting here and you're worried what's going on there, and you're worried, I'm missing that one, you're physically present here, mentally present there. You have lost this and lost that. You lost everything. But if you're physically and mentally present here, you have the joy of missing that out and the pleasure of gaining this one. Do you understand what I'm saying? JOMO, FOMO. The same applies, the simple example, take it also to the boardrooms and all that. I've been in a lot of board discussions and senior CEO, CXO discussions. Those CXOs and boards that are in the FOMO mode, fear, I will miss something, I will miss the Gen AI bus. They miss their strategy also, they miss Gen AI also, everything is gone. Those companies then have to do layoffs and all those kinds of things. There is a second set of boards who may not know anything more about Gen AI than the earlier one, but have their minds rightly in place. They are in one place, they choose the board, they have both legs in that one. They have the joy of missing out the wrong thing. So it is this simple paradigm playing out in board that matters enormously on the JOMO, FOMO scale, etc. I won't give board examples and bore, but this is just a rough analogy into how it works even at board levels where I operate.
So I like this. Know your business, figure out what's best for your business, and then whatever
Absolutely.
you need to do, right? And on the same trust issue, right, Kartik, you cannot talk about AI anymore without talking about ethics of AI, right? And however, it's a very historic topic, ethics of AI, God knows, right? So some bits of how you make it real for organizations.
Ethics in AI could be a philosophical topic, right? I would want to move to something which is more practical, which can be implemented. So the short answer is build guardrails. Like, I am not going to build an open AI because we're going to leverage that, right? It has already been built. So what we need to do, and as part of the strategy of the products that we build at StatusNeo, like the basis is that each and every inference coming out of an LLM has to have a backtracking. So just a little anecdote there. So basically we use graphs, and each graph also has like a connection and a node which actually tells you about that node. So let's say about me, it will tell me about my background and the context also. So whenever I'm giving an output, so the context, right? Red label versus red label, right? That's where it comes from. So if we have enough information, the output should be correct. So the short answer is build guardrails, build your data catalogs. Gen AI is sexy, I understand that, but if your data cataloging is not proper, if your metadata is not in place, it is not going to work out.
Brilliant. Ram, last quick snap. This also needs a change in the skill set matrix that organizations are looking at, right? How do you think that will change?
Yeah, so considering time, I'll try to answer very quickly. See, any organization, if you see holistically, C-suite, managers, tech workers, non-tech workers, you need a holistic, unified learning path to democratize AI. First point, I'll not explain because of time. Second is, you need a cultural shift. AI is not your enemy, AI is your friend, which will augment and increase your productivity. You have to bring this culture in your organization. Third is, based on your role, based on your activity, you need a separate kind of enablement. I'll just give two simple examples. For example, any developer, they should be enabled with a GitHub Copilot, or they should be enabled with a Codium kind of tool. Your non-tech workers, working in the factory, you need a separate set of training. Architect or a strategy person, they should be enabled with the open interpreter kind of tool. I mean, it's a very last, innovation, so that, they will create a strategy, code will be created, code will be executed, and they will be able to validate. What developer will not be able to do that. So just a summary, based on your proficiency and role, you should be trained in the new area of AI plus limitless AI.
So I think just to add on to that, Ram, in my head, specifically in generative AI, right, from the skill matrix, we'll see an inverted pyramid, I think. At the very top will be organizations and people who will use embedded AI in applications. So they don't really care. It comes with the application, they continue to use it, right? Then a little lower under that will be folks who will continue to use largely reliant prompt engineering. And that's a skill today, right? You'll have to build that skill. Just a little below that, you'll have organizations who will actually want to be able to access LLMs and maybe tweak LLMs to their, then you go on to do RAG and vectoring, etc., etc. At the very bottom of the pyramid, you'll have very few players who want to build LLMs, right? And time, effort, and money is inversely proportionate to this pyramid, right? And that's I think for and you can be anywhere on this. It just depends on what you want as an organization. Samir is a friend. I'm going to take 2 minutes more because I want to, for each of you, right? If I said there are many boxes which need to be ticked by an organization to actually adopt limitless AI, but if I just said 3 top of the mind things, what would you say? Raja? And this is like rapid fire. Think Karan Johar.
Natural trumps artificial, hands down. You have natural intelligence, number 1. Number 2, technology is to be used, people are to be valued. Don't use people and value technology. Number 3, fear, and that's exactly what will happen. Fear AI, AI will take your job. Enjoy AI, you will work with AI and succeed.
I love it. Vishy?
So when it comes to Gen AI, I would like to use for you to remember something called the ISLE network. Incubation, where incubated the right way, don't see it as a technology alone, see it as a technology plus business model. Worry about the L for legalities, worry about where the data is where the training data is coming from and how the data is coming out. Pay much more attention. And the third and the most important is ethics. Be 100% sure that ethically you're doing the right thing for the company.
Absolutely. Kartik?
I think Vishy covered most of it, but yes, one is know where your data is going. Keep the infrastructure available as an organization so that you can leverage it at the right time. And the third is keep ethics as the central fulcrum for whatever you're designing for.
And you can see ethics emerge as a theme across, right? Ram?
Yeah, so being an architect, I'll bang on 3 things. Strategy, framework, governance first. Second is your technology revolution and execute with intent. That is important. And third is AI controls. For example, bias management.
Correct.
And ethics, of course. Okay.
I love it. I'm gonna leave you with one of my homilies, right? I always say, and again this is Hindi unfortunately, but I say, button सीने के लिए तलवार की जरूरत नहीं होती है. Right? So therefore, figure out whether you need it or not. And I'm still going to leave you with one of my favorite poor jokes. This comes from a very dear professor who's the dean of one of the IIT's computer science. And his favorite joke is, he'll tell you what is the future of a factory. He'll say, this is a factory where there is one person and one dog. The only job of the person is to feed the dog, and the only job of the dog is to ensure the person doesn't touch anything in the factory. But why I was going there was, he's absolutely right. We are the first principle of everything that AI does. We will have to keep evolving our skill sets. That happens since we first launched a conveyor belt in a factory, and that is continuously going to happen. This was fabulous.
And we are a panel of gods, so Raja, Ram, Viswanath and Kartik. So hopefully you got something out of it. But
wow. Let's not get into names because my parents did the most lazy parenting ever. My full name is Biswajit Das, which literally means, Biswajit means the ruler of the winner, conqueror of the world. And then Das. Why would you name your child that? It's an oxymoron by itself. But thank you folks have been brilliant.
What about me? Raja is the ruler, I rule nothing.
I know.
Mine was equally lousy actually.
But thank you folks have been brilliant.